I've only got 2 minutes to record today, so I thought I'd tell you how I got started in photography, and in particular, how I got started with weddings. Now, I remember my first introduction to photography. My parents bought my sister and I each our own little point and shoot cameras. I think they were like a little Nikon point and shoots. Now, I was about 11 at the time, and at that age, I thought photography was probably the most uncool thing for a guy to do. Now, in hindsight, I think that's pretty cringe, but the reason why I thought that is because the only exposure I had had with people taking photos was the girls at my school that each had their own point and shoots. I was probably the only guy that I knew that had one. So, as you would have expected, I did not use it much. But that all changed when I turned about 20. Now, Instagram was really growing at this stage. It was really starting to pick up, and everyone was using it and posting some really, really nice photos. So I wanted to use photography, and in particular, a professional camera, to go and take better photos for Instagram so that I can kind of stand out and be a little bit more popular. So I saved up and I went and bought a second-hand Canon 650D. Now, I absolutely love that camera. I had a kind of upgraded kit lens on it, and I had the nifty 50. It was a crop sensor, so that was pretty much like a 75 mil, which was really, really nice for portraits. That camera did not last long. I took it on one trip to Thailand, and I thought this thing is way too bulky. I'm not taking it out of my bag because it is just too big. It takes too long to stuff it back in again. So instead, I traded that in and I bought a Sony a6000. In fact, I still have it over here. This is still my go-to fun camera. I still use this when I go like on little trips with my wife. And I currently have a manual focus 35 mm film lens on it that I absolutely love. This is such a fun combo. And I actually shot my very first wedding on this camera. Now, it is by all means not a professional camera. It's only got one card slot. It is APS-C. I didn't have a flash, so I really had to wing it in terms of, creating good lighting scenarios and making sure that my editing was on point to hide any of the mistakes that I made on the day. So a little bit of a risk. It actually turned out great. I'm actually like not too mad at photos for how much of a novice I was. This was only like 2 years into my photography journey. And while I had done like one or two shoots here and there, mainly just like an engagement shoot and a friend's 21st, that was pretty much the only exposure I'd had to kind of paid photography before I shot this wedding. I advertised on Gumtree, which is the South African equivalent of Craigslist. So you can imagine the type of wedding that came out of this. But those photos I'm not too mad with, and I will see if I can find an example or two and put them up over here. Now, after a couple bookings, things started to pick up. I was shooting maybe about 5 to 6 weddings over that next year, and I had a couple other like couple shoots and engagement shoots booked as well. So the main reason why I felt like I needed to upgrade my camera was not because I was unhappy with the quality, because I actually wasn't. The Sony a6000 takes great photos. It is actually because everyone saw that it was so small and they thought I was using a toy. So I wanted to get a full frame camera, just that it's a little bit bigger and it can also help out a little bit in low light performance and have a few more like pro features. So I then went and got the Sony a7 II, which served me so well. I actually loved this camera. It wasn't too great for video, and it was still only had one SD card slot. So I was still living a little bit dangerously, but at least I had two cameras on me on the day. I had the a6000 on one side and then the a7 II on my other side. So that was a big upgrade for me. I actually sat with this for about 2 years before I upgraded again. A lot of that is financial. I would not make good business decisions and I would just go and spend like any money that came into my business. But about 18 months after I got this, I decided to take things seriously. I had a bit of a slogan going called Big Business Energy, meaning that every time I had to make a decision in my business, I would think like, what would a big established photographer do? And that's kind of how I ran my business for 6 months and then kind of made it a habit after that. So I then went and got the Sony a7 IV, which I'm recording on right now. I got a couple more lenses. So I've got a Tamron 28-75, which this is recording on. I also have a Viltrox 85 mm. And, between all these cameras, I was swapping out lenses and had two professional cameras on my hips. And that was a huge, huge, huge upgrade in terms of shooting weddings, the kind of quality I could deliver, and also the kind of professional experience I could deliver as well. Then, and this is not too long ago, less than a year ago, I decided that the big business energy bug would bite again. And I thought the A7 II was really just not performing as it should. It was performing with some glitches. I actually kind of lost access to some of the buttons on the back, and I cannot shoot a wedding like that. So I decided to go get like a really decent backup, which is the Sony A7 III here. I actually use this very little on a wedding day. It has been with me probably to 5 weddings, and I think it's taken about maybe 300 or 400 photos. So this is my most underutilized camera. I think it still works incredibly well in terms of its like photos that come out of it and the videos that come out of it. I'm very, very happy with it, but I just don't have a use because my A7 IV is such a workhorse. Okay, let me give you some more context on why I was always spending the money coming into my business. It is because over the last 4 years, I've moved across the country 6 times. And every time we had a move lined up, it was paying a new deposit on a rental, it was moving our stuff across country. And I felt like I always needed to restart every time we reached a new city. Now, this always brought a nice opportunity. It meant that I could go and refresh my branding, reinvent the way that I did things and the way I promoted myself. Always felt like I was taking a step back in my momentum. So now, Geordie Captures has officially settled in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. We have bookings lined up, and at this point, the momentum is truly, truly running. So stay tuned about what's coming next, and feel free to subscribe if you want constant access to photography business tips and things that are going to help make you a better photographer and a better business owner. Take care, and bye bye.